Ever since I did the reaction video to The Pit, I've received a lot of requests to continue doing them. One of the movies that has been requested a few times has been the movie The Sound of Freedom. It's a true story about human trafficking, sex smuggling, especially when it comes to children. Today we're going to check it out and see if they got it right.
Rocío. Hola, soy Giselle. Yo fui la que te escuchó cantar en el mercado. ¿Te acuerdas?
Sí.
Che, eres aún más linda de lo que recordaba. ¿Está tu papi en la casa? Señor Aguilar.
¿Sí?
Giselle, fundadora de Encuentra tu Sueño.
Ah, mucho gusto.
Me encantaría robarles 5 minutos.
They're going to hand you these things out because they look professional, right? When she gives it to Dad, Dad's going to look at it and say, okay, this must be legitimate, but just know what that brochure represents is just another way of grooming, right? We talked about groomers before, pimps and different traffickers, how they groom. They may try to create dependency, or they might do the boyfriend-girlfriend thing where they try to create love and emotional dependency. But in this kind of pimp here, the pimps that hand out these kind of pamphlets and show up like this, door-to-door looking for talent, what I call them, they're like kind of like the CEO pimps, like a business pimp, right? Where they come around and their grooming techniques aren't like the others. Their grooming techniques involves using more coercion and more fraud, right? A legitimate job, a legitimate opportunity for the young person, but it's not real, okay? It's part of that coercion and it's part of the fraud of trafficking. So remember those two words. This is going to be about fraud and coercion initially.
Si yo fuera tú, lo convencería. ¿Y quién es esta cosa tan linda? ¿Es tu hermanito?
Sí.
¿Cómo te llamas?
This lady knows how much this means to the daughter, right? It's almost like the dad kind of feels pressured now because it's you can see it's his daughter's dream. So he doesn't want to let his daughter down. See, Dad's a hardworking guy, so he wants to probably give his kids a better opportunity in life than what he had. You can see how her face changed, the expression in her face changed. She went from smiling, an open smile, to almost her eyes closing. Tells you that she probably has plans for him too. She sees him as an opportunity to get another child in this situation here.
No se permiten hombres en la cocina. Pero las recogidas a las 7 p.m. En punto.
Bueno.
Papi, adiós.
Bueno, mi amor.
No way. I'm sorry. If I was Dad, I'd be super, super nervous right now, right? Why can't Dad wait inside? Why couldn't they have chairs on the side where Dad could sit, right? And now she has the young son there. So what is he doing there? Dad should really be suspicious because the young son couldn't sing or dance. So why is he there? What did she do to convince Dad that now the son's valuable also? And also keep in mind, for a trafficker, remember we talked about isolation? That's one of their tactics. This is the beginning of that, right? This is just the start of isolating these two children from their parent. This isn't the trafficker. This woman is not a trafficker, in my opinion. She's more than likely, I call them facilitators. They facilitate, in this case, kids being brought into this kind of environment. You see she's putting makeup on them to make them look a lot older. These are like huge red flags here. This is really tough stuff to see because it represents the worst of what human trafficking is, sex smuggling. This is the worst of it, right, when it involves kids. Wow. They told him to come back at 7 because they probably knew taking pictures of those kids in there would only take a short time. And then the rest of the time could be used for them to get further and further away from here. In the United States, we have things like the Amber Alert and different things like that. We have ways to let folks know that children are missing. But that doesn't mean like in the United States, these things can't happen. because this kind of recruitment, this kind of coercion and fraud does happen. It'll probably just happen more so online, all right? So here, parents still have to be aware of these type of situations where folks come along, offer an opportunity that then turns into trafficking. So I just want to point something out with these videos. I've seen videos like this before, right? And it's important to know that, does this stuff happen? 100% it's happening, right? We see it happening on video. However, we don't know the context of these videos. We don't know really what we're looking at. We can look at it and put a label on it and say this is human trafficking or sex trafficking, or this is how they're stealing kids. But honestly, we don't know what this is, right? This could be a domestic situation. This could be kidnapping. This is what kidnapping looks like, right? Which is, they're all serious. I just don't want everything that looks like that to be labeled as human trafficking, because my goal for you guys is very important that in order for us to really recognize the trafficking, the true signs of human trafficking, sex smuggling, all of these things, I want your eyes to be in the right place, right? And looking at stuff like this, if we continue to look at stuff like this and feel like this is trafficking, we're going to miss the real warning signs of trafficking, right? The stuff we're talking about on this show, okay? It's more important to know what the context of these videos are before we can just label them as trafficking, human trafficking. Okay. Maybe that's what they were taking the photos for, of the kids. They get uploaded into a database kind of like this here. This guy here that's watching the videos may be somebody who trades in child porn, or from what this looks like, he might be somebody who actually trades in children, which is even more frightening, right? He sends these photos out to those folks in those groups. I can tell you, I had a case working, it was more of a human trafficking, sex smuggling. These folks were being smuggled across the border, and they were being placed into indoor like brothels to have sex. But what would happen is they would send every Monday guys who would go to this brothel. They were on like a text list, and every Monday they would get a card sent to them, similar to what that brochure that woman was showing in the beginning. But when you open it, it's all different women. All right, so this is kind of common. I don't know if that's what they're doing here, but I'd imagine it's something along those lines.
He's in.
He's uploading.
If he logs out, we can kiss him that sentence goodbye.
Law enforcement, we have ways to detect when folks are downloading child pornography. Child pornography is a different kind of code to it, and we can kind of tell. And then you can also tell when folks are transmitting it, okay? So it's illegal to possess it, and it's also illegal to send it. So I can see now that's Homeland Security. I was on that task force. In order to do this, you have to have a signed warrant from a judge. These guys are dangerous. You know, there's a lot at stake here. The bad guys know that. They know if they get caught by police, it could be over for them. So some of them, they'll do whatever they have to do to get away. So you got to make sure that you plan these the execution of your warrants really, really well. This guy thinks he's tucked away. Nobody can see what he's doing, so he can continue this behavior. He doesn't look nervous at all while he's doing it. You know, it just looks like another, like a walk in the park for him. But little does he know that law enforcement, we're out there looking for guys doing this kind of stuff. Okay, you can see he got some videos there. So that's something common you're going to see when you go into these places, especially if they're like traders and stuff like that. They're going to have all those videos. that stuff's very important. That stuff you can look over and over again. Unfortunately, if he's a person that's abusing kids or something like that, a lot of these guys keep that stuff and they look at it later on. It's disturbing. That's why we're doing this, right? Because the more we know, the less space these guys have to operate. A guy like this, if his neighbors knew about human trafficking, if they knew some of the warning signs of sex trafficking, kids being exploited, they might have noticed something strange about this guy, right? And again, they could have alerted the police. So awareness is so important, especially in these situations.
I don't think I can do this job, Tim. Let me ask you something. How many pedophiles you caught?
As of today, 288. Not so bad.
How many kids you found?
And that's the hard part about all of this. Sadly, there aren't a ton of success stories, right? As law enforcement working on human trafficking cases, I say this all the time, folks are gonna remember me saying this, is that it's almost like playing baseball, right? It's like getting up to the plate 1,000 times knowing that you might only get one hit, right? Or you might not even get a hit. No matter how professional you are, how long you've been doing this, it's difficult work to do. And at times you get that feeling where you feel like, maybe it's not the type of work for you. However, for me, knowing that these kids get exploited, it just motivates me, right? It motivates me to keep doing this work because the bad guys are going to keep doing what they're doing, right? They're going to keep trying to exploit children. So for me, sometimes it does become difficult, but then I think about those kids and I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I have what it takes to do this. It's just at times, like I said, it's definitely difficult. You're only human, law enforcement or not. You're only human, and you're going to fall into feeling this way sometimes. Yeah. So now he has to log everything into like a report. So everything he did, all the actions he took, getting the probable cause he had for his warrants, the results of the warrants, all that stuff he puts into a report. And a lot of times he'll review evidence. I think that's what he's doing now because he wants his report to be accurate. A lot of agencies, they'll have you take like a baseline test. And that baseline test just shows you like mentally where you are now prior to being exposed to all of this stuff. So that when time passes, like his partner, they said, I can't do this anymore. He would be a perfect candidate for that the second baseline test. If he had the first test done, now by the time he gets to this point, they can, give him the second baseline and you might be able to tell by his answers that, yeah, this guy's definitely had enough. It's not for everybody, and we are only human, and it wears everybody down.